Hello, everyone. This has been discussed a lot during the entirety of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. That is his undeniable bias when it came to talking about the war in Ukraine. He quoted Putin, he cited his admiration for Putin, he said he will talk to Putin, so on and so forth. And those of us covering this kept asking, so where's Ukraine in all this? In order to negotiate a peace between two countries, one of which is invading the other, you kind of have to talk to both of them and listen to both of them, especially since one of them is the injured party. Why are you talking to the invader? Another thing to remember is, first of all, Russia's losses, and second, the land grab aspect of this. So, it's true that Russia had suffered record losses in this war. 434,000 casualties, of which more than a third was deaths. For perspective, Omaha, Nebraska, and Leicester, England, are cities that have population around 400,000. And 150,000, by comparison, that's more than the population of Berkeley, California. Berkeley has about 100,000 people. So that ought to tell you. So when conducting these negotiations, one must be aware of every aspect of this war pertaining to both sides. When it comes to Russia, it's the loss of human life, isolation from the rest of the world, with the exception of its sanction-settled buddies, the impact on the economy. Because this is my advantage of being able to read Russian, Ukrainian, and Polish sources. Unfortunately, many of them are not available in English, where they're talking about food deficits in Russia, the inflation, the fact that they are unable to use some of their own equipment, because while the equipment was built in Russia, the parts came from somewhere else. The parts came from Europe, the parts came from Japan, and so on and so forth. So things in some areas are quite literally falling apart. And when talking to Russia about this, there needs to be an emphasis on this. On the other side, so Ukraine is in a difficult position. Does it want its land back? Yes. But is it struggling with that? Yes. So, despite all of the best efforts and the Kursk offensive and the strategic strikes against Russia's military objects inside Russia, Russia continued a very, very agonizingly slow but steady progress into Ukrainian territory. So that is a concern. What Ukrainians want to do is stabilize the front line and at least push it back so that they could negotiate from the position of some strength. Because otherwise, if, as we suspect, Russian government, Putin, doesn't care about the hardships of its citizens, they have no reason to stop. They're going to say, oh, we're doing fine, we're making progress, so no. So, this is complicated. It always was complicated. So, you can't say you're going to end this in 24 hours or 100 days or whatever. Because without understanding every single aspect of this, you cannot come to the negotiating table and talk with any sort of authority. That is not to say that Russia is feeling politically uneasy. So there is that, the 100-year partnership deal that Ukraine and UK had just signed. And we talked about this recently. And of course, it's making Russia uneasy. UK has the history of being a small country that is underestimated. It is historically a small country with a big punch. Ask Spanish Armada. So, understandably, Russia is going to fuss around this and basically continue telling everybody that this is a huge threat. So, this will continue. This language, how everybody is threatening Russia, is going to continue. This is going to make them itchy as well. So, hundreds of Swedish forces arrive in Latvia. So this is a NATO deployment. And why? Because Latvia, again, is one of the former Soviet republics, one of the earliest ones to break away from the Soviet Union, and one of the ones that doesn't want to be part of Russia ever again. A reminder, in a supreme fit of irony, Latvia was not a NATO member until 2024. Remember that? Yeah. Finland and Latvia were not NATO member for a very long time. Their decision to become NATO members came directly as a consequence of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And Russia has territorial disputes with both Finland and Latvia, and they decided not to wait. So, we have Swedish troops, we have a Canadian-led multinational brigade already there, and we have a ship carrying parts of a mechanized infantry battalion arriving in Riga. So, this is going to be interesting. Russia kept saying, it felt threatened by NATO when nothing was going on, and when its two neighbors, Finland and Latvia, were still outside of NATO. Its actions, Russia's own actions against Ukraine, prompted the expansion of military budget among many NATO members. Not all, unfortunately, not enough. And Latvia's and Finland's entry into NATO. Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. The last but not the least, as all of you know, I have no great love for Vladimir Zelensky for a variety of reasons. I talked about this many times, but I acknowledge this is smart. So what is this all about? Slovakia is one of the anti-Ukraine and anti-support of Ukraine members of the EU. So, recently Slovakia was impacted very heavily by Ukraine basically refusing to pump Russia's gas across Ukrainian territory, because why should they? Naturally, Slovakia and other countries who support Russia, paradoxically in Europe, started screaming bloody murder, saying, hey, give us back our gas, Ukraine, you're being an aggressor, blah, 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 blah. So Zelensky basically said, hey, we could help you out. We could talk about this. We could figure out some alternative sources of energy for you if you would like. Translation, we could let you off Russia's leash, Slovakia. How would that feel? How would it feel to stop kissing Russia's ass? I would say it would feel pretty fabulous. So, that conversation is going on, and I think it's not a bad strategy to appeal to Russia's existing allies and offer them something that they might want. More to come.